just, trying to get some videos out today because I haven't in a couple of days. And I've got the little one behind me on neighborhood watch, and she keeps on yipping every once in a while. So just ignore that. But that's my dog Dolly, if anybody's wondering. She's a Shiba Inu. Oh, are you gonna lay down? All right, that's a good girl. Hey, welcome back to Melly Loves Death Metal. I am doing a half-ass review. Just gonna be honest with you. I'm not gonna do like a track-by-track deep dive. I generally save those for my heavy metallurgy review, but I do want to talk about a release that I am excited that came out today, and that is Coffins' Sinister Oath on Relapse Records. So I did a little bit of a live, what are they called, YouTube Shorts video, and I showed off this tape, but if you haven't seen it, I'll show it off in here too. So Coffins is a band out of Japan. They are a death doom band. I often label them as death doom masters. Japanese death doom just is really something that is so good. Like Anatomia is another band that I'm thinking of right now that they just go hand in hand. They're just so good. They do it so well. Death doom is a very niche thing. Not a lot of people get into it, but this band, they really, when they get together and they write music, I really enjoy what they put together. So they've been around since the early 2000s. Their first album, Mortuary in Darkness, is one of my favorite releases of theirs. A great debut album, just very raw, sinister, evil, murky, crushing death doom album. And then they followed that up with The Other Side of Blasphemy, which is another fantastic release. This is their 6th full-length album, but you should also know that they release music every single year, sometimes several times a year, and it's usually an EP or a split. Like, they are the split masters. So they are constantly turning out music. Even if it's not a full-length album, they're just still constantly. So their discography is very vast. And I stopped trying to collect their releases for that reason. I do have a couple of their other albums on tape and CD. Their last album that came out in 2019, Beyond the Circular Demise, was also out on Relapse Records. I actually never really got too much into that album, I would say. For a while there, I kind of lost track of the band because they were just releasing so much stuff. But I finally started going back and listening to some of these full lengths that I haven't really fully dived into. And yeah, I still absolutely love this band. Again, those first 2 to 3 albums, their third album was also really good too. Let me call that out here. It is called Buried Death. That's another phenomenal album. Actually, I think that's probably one of their most notably known ones because that was out on 20 Bucks Spin. So that's immediately the one that I first heard. And that came out in 2008. So yeah, those first 3 albums are just cream of the crop death doom for me. I've always been a huge fan of those albums. And then towards the middle there, I kind of got lost touch with them a little bit. But they are back with Sinister Oath. So let me show you the tape. It is a black pro printed tape with red ink. I really like the way this looks. It's pretty classy looking, very simplistic, nothing too crazy. I'm a sucker for the black tapes. And then the J card is pretty simple, but the vinyl records for this look awesome. Some of the color variants that they have are fantastic. So maybe eventually someday I will get it on vinyl. So there is that. The liner notes, the cover artwork is done by Alex Herman. I absolutely am a huge fan of that cover art. I think I'm going to buy a t-shirt. I'm going to just splurge and get it because I need to wear that around. And then here is the band right here. So this album, let me just be honest with you. If you know Coffins, then you're going to like this album. If you like Coffins, you're going to like this album. If you don't know Coffins, you're going to listen to this album and say, this sounds like a lot of other bands I've heard before. But here's the thing. They've been around for a long time. And yes, they do sound like other bands, but really other bands sound like Coffins. So keep that in mind. This album is pretty much the copy-paste Coffins formula here. Nothing really varies too much from what they've already put out. However, they have a formula. They stick with what they know and what they do well, and it's good. And so if you think of that and you come into that not with like these super high expectations that they're going to do something new and shocking and so crazy and rewriting Death Doom. No, that's not what you're getting here. You're getting Coffins, and you're getting sinister and crushing heavy, at times screaming vocals, but still those, low growl, death doom vocals with the dissonance and the crustiness of the guitars, the crunchiness of the guitars. All of that's still there. The variance of this band is pretty minimal, but they're still writing good music. So that's what I just wanted to call out here. Like I said, if you're expecting something to be so groundbreaking and new and just Coffins, oh my god, rewrote Death Doom, unfortunately that's not what you're going to get with this album. But like I said, they have a formula, it's working, and they're sticking to it, and they're still putting out good music. I still think it's a good album. I've listened to it several times. I get kind of lost in it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the first 2 times I listened to this, I popped it on my tape deck. I've got this nice, really comfy chair that I've talked about several times. My parents came from my childhood home. I sit in that, and the first 2 times I listened to this, I kind of just went off into a dark void. And when I came back, the album was over. I was like, oh shit, where did I just go? And I was not smoking pot or doing anything like that. That's just what it did to me. And the first 2 times I listened to this album, that's what it did. Then finally I was like, all right, I need to listen to this and hear things and variances of it. And it's good. It's crushing. It's suffocating. It is a bit of an exhausting album. By the time it ends, you're like, oh, I just got drugged through and smashed my face in with a goddamn cement block 100 times. And then was tortured, but it is a good album in that regard. So if you're coming into this and you're thinking to yourself, I've heard this before, other bands have done this, just keep in mind other bands probably copied them or other bands are similar to them because they came out around the same time, and they do take influences obviously from some of the classic death metal bands and this classic death doom bands that have been out much longer than them, and there is some of that modern death metal in here as well, but it is crushing. It is sinister sounding for sure. It's very dark. It's got cavernous feels to it at times. It's got dissonance to it. The guitars are super, like, at times they have like this crunchy sound to it and this like really like reverb, like noise element to it that I really enjoy, but also it's still that crushing in, death doom style of guitars. Same thing with the vocals. It's got the really like deepened growls, death doom growls, and then every once in a while there's these sinister screams that come through that I really, really enjoy. I like when they add those variants into it, but as a whole, the vocal variance is not as different as, past albums or throughout the whole entire album as a whole. So it's a great album. I really enjoy it. I knew what I was getting when I was going to be listening to it. The first single that I heard, I immediately pre-ordered it as soon as it was announced because I really liked what I heard. But this is definitely not going to be for everybody. 100% keep that in mind. Just because I say I like it doesn't mean you're going to like it. That's how reviews work here. Not going to take offense to anybody that tells me they don't like the album, but I just wanted to talk about, I like to promote things that I like on here. So definitely check this out if you haven't yet. It is a good album. And go back and listen to their first 3 albums. Some fantastic Coffins there. And then the 1,000 Splits. Let's see here. I've got Metal Archives open here. And the amount of splits that these guys do are freaking hilarious. I don't know. They got a lot of time that they're able to record this music. They came out with a split called A Tribute to Grave, which this came out earlier this year, like literally a month ago. And it's another band, Gravagrav, I think is how you say their name. And it's another Japanese death metal band they did a split with, and it's called A Tribute to Grave. And apparently it's a 7-inch vinyl. And yeah, they do Grave covers, which I did not know that was out, admittedly. So that's a split that they just put out a month ago, literally on March 1st. And then after that, they came out with another split with Eternal Rot. I do own this. I think I showed this off because Eternal Rot sent this to me. This was released in 2021. So it actually had been a couple of years. Okay, it had been a couple of years since they released music between now and then. 2021 was their last release, and that was with Eternal Rot. Fantastic split. That was on Behind the Mountain, I think. It was some sort of label that was really hard to get the album, but Eternal Rot was awesome, and they sent me a copy of that on CD back then. Okay, so all right, so they took a little bit of a break there. So between 2021 and 2024, they didn't release anything. So, okay, I should probably go easy on them. Then they did another split in 2020 with Depression. This was on Hell's Headbangers. That was a really good split. So they release splits with solid bands. And they're a hardworking, very hardworking band. There's also another one that came out with Cardiac Arrest. That was in 2019. Another one with Ilsa, another Relapse Records band. Admittedly, I'm not too familiar with them, but I remember when that came out. Let's see. What's the other notable split that I was thinking of? It might have been the Depression split. Hooded Menace. That's right. They came out with a split with Hooded Menace in 2010. So they're working with all these iconic, awesome death metal bands and doom bands. So yeah, hardworking guys. They constantly release music, but there was a bit of a hiatus there, like I said. So I guess that Eternal Rot and Coffins split came out in 2021. It felt like it was yesterday. These years are just flying by. Anyway, Coffins, Sinister Oath, Relapse Records. These are not sold out. If you want a tape, grab it. If you want a vinyl, they have several color variants. If you want a CD, it's there too. And then there's plenty of shirts and stuff like that. Relapse is good about their circulation. So yeah, good stuff. That's all I have today. This is a double upload. Please check out my release video that also came out today. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend. If you celebrate the Zombie Jesus / Easter Day, I hope you guys have a happy Easter, and I will see you in the next one.